into the year with about 6 months left to go. Now, I'm not a big New Year's resolution type of girl. Instead, honestly, at the top of the year, I typically sit down with my planner and I just look ahead at what I'd like to make happen over the course of the year. But I don't usually just set like, I want to get back into fitness, or this is going to be my year of losing the weight or eating right, or it's never something like that. It's always some overarching action based goal that I'd like to achieve. But what I truly center my year around is a word. And the word usually grounds me towards my intention. So this year, the word that I chose was create. I decided on create as I stepped into a new business and felt like a beginner all over again. 2023 has been kind of a head down year for me, and I don't know how it's been so far for you, but I wanted my focus when the year started to be less on like looking around at the outcome and more on putting my head down and taking the actions I could control. So here we are halfway through the year. And if you're feeling a little stuck today, maybe you didn't really set any goals for the top of the year, or maybe you're on this, listening to this and you didn't pick a word. Maybe you're feeling like, where did the last 6 months go? Wherever you are, that's okay. You can pause at any time and take inventory. So this is going to be the perfect place to start. The first question I love to ask myself is, what can I control? I could have easily stepped into this new year with new ambitions, a blank slate, and gone into paralysis. I could have looked left and right and noticed what everyone else was doing. I could have slipped into feeling like I'm so far away from my end goal. Like, what's the point of even trying? And instead, I took a very different approach. And I asked myself, what can I control? And maybe that's you today. Maybe you stepped into this new year with all kinds of ambitions and a fresh blank slate, and at some point just kind of went into paralysis. Maybe you started looking left and right and compared yourself to everyone else, and it just didn't feel like what you were doing mattered as much. Or maybe you slipped into that feeling like, where I'm at today feels so freaking far from where I have to go. Like, what's the point of even trying? I don't even feel like I'm chipping away at this goal. And so the same can be true for you. You can ask yourself in this moment, what can I take control over? That's what a great mid-year check-in is all about. It's about taking back ownership, taking back control, and not just coasting through your days over and over and over again, and then getting to the new year and saying, oh my gosh, like I totally forgot about that goal that I said I wanted to do when the ball dropped last year. Instead, we can kind of pause and take a deep breath and really realign or align ourselves with what matters most. And maybe that's you today. Maybe you stepped into this new year with all kinds of ambitions and a fresh, when the top of the year came, I decided, okay, what can I do? What can I control? And I had to take deep inventory of like what I actually had control over as I was stepping into a new season of business. And my slate felt very blank, but in a very nerve-wracking manner. And so I decided that, you know what? I'm creative. I'm a creative spirit. And so with that, I can create. And ultimately, the only way that I can get to those end goals is I actually have to do something. So create for me felt really aligned with what I needed in this season. And so that became my focus for this year. Create. Word, it drives me. It helps me when I feel stuck or if I'm off course. I can just like look down and remember, okay, Brittany, create. That's what you can control. You can create something. So what about you? What's within your control right now, halfway through the year? What's your end goal looking like? And what do you have to do with that end goal to help make it a reality? Because like everybody has a part in the process, right? We can't just set goals at the new year and expect them to magically just come to fruition. We play a very important part in the process to getting to what we desire. So with half the year gone, this is a great time to sit down and take inventory of where we're at and where we'd like to move in the next 6 months. And I'm super excited to do this with you guys. I know that this community loved when we did the quarterly check-in for your goals chat. So I wanted to make sure that I came back in and gave you a jumping off point for this halfway mark of the year. It's a moment to slow down. I tell my girls in the Self-Care Sisterhood membership all the time that we have to give ourselves this gift of just slowing down, intentionally looking at what's working in our lives and what's not, so that we can assess whether our goals and actions are actually in alignment with that overall vision. And here's the thing, if they're not, that's okay, because at this point you can tweak methods, you can tweak actions, you can tweak behaviors that aren't leading you closer to where you desire to move. So that's the purpose of today. We're going to like put a little pen to paper and we're going to reflect on some things, kind of connect back to our goals and where we're really trying to move. And we're also going to take some honest inventory of maybe like what's not working and what needs to shift and tweak. So let's dive in. So, with half the year gone, this is a great time to sit down and take inventory of where we're at and where we'd like to. Okay, so the first place that we're going to start is with reflections. Now, here's the deal. If you're listening to this and you're on the go right now, you can totally hear these questions, maybe take a little honest inventory while you're driving or you're just listening on the go. But I did you a solid and I actually created a free workbook/journal that has all these questions in it and some space for you to kind of do some thoughtful reflection of your answers. So, whenever you're done listening to this episode, you can go to inspirebeautybrit.com/mid-year check-in. That's inspirebeautybrit.com/mid-year check-in. And you can snag that free workbook there that'll help you get guided through all these questions. And like I said, have some space to put some thoughtful responses. But here's the questions that I'd like to take some time and reflect on, especially coming up on the halfway mark of the year. So the first question is, what were my original goals for the year? Now, again, if you don't have original goals for the year, or maybe you set some, but you don't really remember them, or they're not that meaningful to you anymore, this is an awesome time to just set some new goals if you haven't, or if they need a refresher. So what are your original goals for the year? The second reflection question is, what am I proud of and celebrating so far this year? Now, this one can be tricky because we are not wired to celebrate ourselves. We're not wired to often be proud of ourselves. So I'm going to encourage you, find ways to like go down memory lane. How can you look back on the first 6 months of the year and see what you've done that is clapworthy, right? And I always tell my girls in the membership, smaller is better. So it could even be as simple as like you've gotten a routine of taking water with you everywhere you go. That is celebratory. Maybe you are on a workout journey and you have been crushing it for the first 6 months of the year. Maybe not perfect, right? Because that's not the purpose, but you've been making progress on your journey. You can celebrate that. Maybe you've been more mindful of your involvement in your church community or your friend circles, or just getting out and going to yoga classes once a week. Whatever that is, it doesn't have to be huge and monumental. It just needs to be needle moving. So I love personally to go onto my social media, Instagram stories, because that's where I live a lot of my life out loud. And so I'll go to my Instagram stories and I'll go back through the archive of them and see, what have I done so far this year? What trips did we take? What memories have we made? And I'll jog my memory that way so that I don't leave any stone unturned, that I truly can take an honest moment and be proud of myself for the progress that I've made. The third question is, what hasn't been working so well? This one's important and it's shame-free. This is not a place to get stuck in beating yourself up, but truly being honest about what's not working. You know, I realized partway through the year that my morning routine was no longer working the way that it once had been. And so by acknowledging it's not working, I then had the power and the ownership to tweak it, to adjust it. And so looking at what's not working so well, and why is that? Maybe you've been staying a little late at your job and it's just not working anymore for your family dynamic and your stress level and burnout. Why? Once you can pinpoint why it's not working, you can start to take steps to adjust and tweak that. The next question is, what has been getting my attention so far this year? Ooh, this is a powerful one. What's getting your attention? Is it the same thing as what your intention is? So I often have the best intentions. I'm really intentional about wanting to have a great morning or moving my body or feeling it well. But then I give other things my attention. I go out for too many happy hours. I end up watching a series on Netflix instead of getting outside for dog walks. And the things that start to get my attention weren't my original intentions. They're not in alignment with my goals. And so first look at what's been getting your attention and then ask, is this in alignment with my goals? And if you have no idea, if you feel like you're living in this space where the days are kind of just passing you by and you're not really sure where your focus and attention is going, I encourage you for like the next week, honestly, write down everything you're doing all day long. From the time you wake up, document everything. Did you pick up your phone and scroll? How long did you do that for? Did you watch TV? How long? Did you move your body? When did you do that? And look at what's getting your attention in an honest way, and then just compare. Is this in alignment with my goals? Is this taking me closer towards my goals, or is it taking me further from my goals? And the last reflection question is very much in alignment with the same one. It says, what have I been consistent with that's benefiting me and my goals? So going back, if maybe your goal in the new year was to get back into your social circle and get more involved in your church, and you have consistently been going to church on Sunday, and you've been consistently joining maybe a Bible study group or connecting with a ladies group, at coffee every week, then you've been consistent with things that are benefiting you and your goals. And so for the next 6 months, continue being consistent and maybe see what else you can add to that. But if your main goal was getting back into, that social community and your spiritual community, and you've been consistently sleeping in on Sunday or missing out and not showing up for group or whatever that looks like, or you never even joined a group, then that's not benefiting you and your goals, right? So we have to look at our behaviors and our consistent behaviors. So often I hear, people will share with me, man, I just can't be consistent. And that's what's so funny is consistency is kind of a myth, because we start to think that we can't be consistent with the behaviors that are going to get us to our goal, but it's not a consistency issue. We're consistent with anything we do, whether that's consistent at coming home and sitting on the couch, consistent with driving through Starbucks in the morning, consistent with moving our body first thing, consistent with going to church on Sunday, whatever your goals are, wherever you're trying to show up in your life. I'm sure you've been consistent at something, but is it the right thing? It's not a consistency issue. If we really break it down, I promise you, you're consistent at things, but are they the right things that are moving you in the right direction of the goals that matter to you? So what have you been consistent with that's benefiting your goals? And what have you been consistent with that's not? Okay, so the first place that we're going to start is with reflections. Now, here's the deal. If you're listening to this and you're on the go right now, you can totally hear these questions, maybe take a little honest inventory while you're driving or you're just listening on the go. But I did you a solid, and I actually created a free workbook/journal that has all these questions in it and some space for you to kind of do some thoughtful reflection of your answers. So whenever you're done listening to this episode, you can go to inspirebeautybrit.com/mid-year check-in. That's inspirebeautybrit.com/mid-year check-in. And you can snag that free workbook there that'll help you get guided through all benefiting you and your goals. All right, y'all. So now here's when we make some movement. We can't stop at the reflection. We have to make a game plan for how we want the rest of the year to flow. It's that intention, right? So what's getting my attention? Is it what I have set as an intention? So our next step is to kind of prep and get ourselves visualizing what we want the rest of the year to look like. So this is where you get to take your power back, honestly. All of the people that get to the end of the year and they're like, man, I totally forgot last year's resolution. I guess I'll just set the same goal. We're giving up our power over and over and over again because we're so focused on things that don't matter to us, that those things that we said matter aren't getting our attention. So we're going to take a moment and ask ourselves a couple questions. First question is, what would progress look and feel like by the time the ball drops? I want you to visualize it. Progress, not perfection, not 100% success. That doesn't mean the goal is checked off the list. It just means, are you moving towards it? So many times I've given up on goals because I didn't get there in the time that I thought. And so I just thought it wasn't for me. Have you ever done that? And so instead of thinking I have to hit the goal, if the goal is 50 pounds, I'm losing 50 pounds in 2023. Okay, let's say you lost 48. Does that make you a failure? Like, no. 48 out of 50 is pretty freaking good progress, right? And so we have to look at what progress would look and feel like versus being so attached and tied to an actual end goal that we don't derail ourselves from that sense of fulfillment that progress gives us. Second question is, what are you committing to for the rest of the year? What is a solid goal for you? So like I said at the top, if you hadn't set a goal, an original goal for the year, this is a great time to do that. But even if you did set a goal, what does the rest of the year look like? Because there are some places where I've actually met some of my goals. And so it's like, okay, I might need to dream a little bigger, right? And in other places, maybe I set too big of a goal and the gap is really far. So I've got to look back at that first question about progress. What would progress look like? So what am I committing to for the next 6 months that's going to help me make progress towards that place? Question 3 is, what new habits and routines do you need to implement to better support your vision? Ooh, I love this one. So often we think of the outcome when we're setting goals. We think of the outcome when we're making resolutions, and mid-year check-ins can be so centered around outcome. But my friends, I want you to remember action over outcome. Your habits, your routines, your actions, your behaviors, that is going to be a clear indicator of the direction you're moving, more than you telling me I checked off a box and hit a goal. It's who you're becoming along the journey, right? The type of person who sticks to that habit, the type of person who sticks to that routine. So what habits, what routines do you need to implement that are going to support that vision? Question 4, what plans, responsibilities, or obstacles are coming up? What could get in the way of your effort? I think this one's powerful because so often we think about the goal that we want to hit and achieve, but we don't think about life. We forget that life happens. Sometimes you will get off track. Sometimes you will miss the mark. Sometimes a disappointment will come. Sometimes a out of your control circumstance is going to sweep you off your feet, and it's just going to be hard. So can you already kind of like get yourself in a mindset that's ready for that? Is there anything that could derail your efforts? The quicker you can see what could derail an effort, like, ooh, I have that upcoming vacation. Ooh, you know what? My family's coming to visit for 3 weeks and it's going to be kind of crazy in the house. Oh, you know what? The kids are going to be involved in a lot more activities this fall. This summer's going to be wild because we have a lot of trips planned and took time off work. Like, thinking through what you have that might derail your efforts is going to help you create a game plan around those, so that when that time comes, you have ownership, you have power, you have a game plan. And the last question is, what is stopping you from achieving your goal? Like, what would it take? For me, so many times I look at goals and I think, maybe that was a goal that someone else wanted and I just thought I needed to set it. And so it actually wasn't the right goal for me. And that's what was stopping me from achieving my goal. It just wasn't really my goal. It was someone else's that I was copying. Sometimes what's stopping me from achieving my goal is the actual feeling of success on the other side of it. Like, what if I actually do this? Then what? Like, what if my plate's too full? Or what if, too many people need my attention? Am I going to be able to handle what comes on the other side of achieving that? And I think success can be a derailer from us achieving our goals, even though you think like that's what you want, but the fear of success can kind of sabotage us. Fear of failure can be a sabotager too. So what would it actually take for you to hit that goal? And then how can you be the person who does what you want to do? I don't believe in the whole like fake it till you make it. But I heard the other day from someone, she said, believe it till you become it. And I love that so much. How can you believe in your goal until you become your goal? And along the way, how can you be the type of person who shows up and does the kinds of things that person that achieves the goal would have to do? Your goals take action, right? And so that type of person, like if you're like, I want to be the person that is healthy and well and fit, and so I want to get back into a physical fitness routine and really nourish my body. Well, the type of person that does that, they're disciplined. They have an alarm clock set in the morning and a date with themselves that they don't miss. They probably have routines surrounding their grocery shopping and their meal planning and their meal prepping. They're probably not easily like swayed with willpower when it comes to the end of the day and sticking to their goals. So how can you be that person even when you're not at your goal yet? And like I said, if you want to grab a free printable of the mid-year review workbook, I made a whole workbook that's got all these questions in it, plus space for journaling. So make sure that you go to inspiredbeautybrit.com/mid-year check-in. And I'm also going to provide the link below in the show notes so that you guys can snag your mid-year check-in workbook and actually take some time. I know as I walk through these questions with you guys, you're hearing them and you're probably contemplating them, but there's something powerful that happens when you put a little bit of pen to paper and you can actually kind of just dump out your answers. It's also really special because then at the end of the year, you can come back to those notes and you can look back on them and see the progress you've made, see what you did with the last 6 months that you had. All right, but what happens when you're really far behind, or you're not there yet, or you're falling short of your goals and you just feel like it keeps happening over and over again, or you just have a lot going on in your life and your goals just seem to slip by the wayside? And here's the deal, I get it. You just took time to reflect and game plan. And at this point, you might be sitting here realizing that you haven't been very focused or intentional with your goals. And I've been there. And so I want to make sure that I wrap up with a little bit of reality. I'd be doing you a disservice if I simply assume that every chunk of the rest of the year would flow perfectly. It's not realistic. There's this thing called life. And as much as we can plan and prep, and I can give you a workbook and you can write it all out and do your beautiful reflection and visualizing, things happen. And the outcome, like I said, is often not in our control. And so that's why I share with you that your actions, those behaviors are so powerful, because I can't control the outcome, but I can control how I show up and how often I show up, right? And the same is true for you. You can control how you show up and how often you show up. The instinct for so many at this point in the year is to just give up. Like I said, it's why so many people set goals and never revisit them until after the ball drops again. And they're like, oh, you know what? I think I'll try that thing again that I failed at last year. Why do we do that to ourselves? Instead of that instinct to give up, let's just reassess. Let's evaluate. We'll get honest about where we're at and extend grace to ourselves, you guys. And remember, the goal isn't always the problem. The problem is typically being off track. And so a mid-year check-in is the perfect opportunity to say, my goal is not my problem. I'm just off track. And it's time I get back on track because I'm worth it. So let this be the season that you get back up. Get focused, get intentional, make it matter to you. Make your goals matter, right? Why not? No matter where you're at on your journey, I know that taking time to pause and reflect on your goals, navigate where you're off track so that you kind of course correct, make tweaks, adjustments, and dig into what needs focus and attention in the coming months, it's going to be a game changer for your progress. I already know it. I'd be doing you a disservice if I simply assumed that every chunk of the rest of the year would flow perfectly. It's not realistic. There's this thing called life, and as much as we can plan and prep, so I hope this helped you get excited for the rest of the year. I can't believe, like I said, we're halfway through another freaking year. Time is flying. But I hope you got so much from this episode, and I can't wait to cheer you on as you're making progress towards what matters most. Remember, make sure to like this, share this, subscribe. Let me know how you're doing. What are your goals? And if you print off that workbook, make sure that you take a picture and tag me on social media at Inspire Beauty Brit, because I want to see how you're making progress. I want to cheer you on. I want to celebrate with you, because you guys, we are not meant to do life or our journey alone. So I hope this helped you get excited for the rest of the year. All right, guys, I'll see you next week. Same time, same place. And in the meantime, keep showing up, taking care of yourself so that you can go out into the world and love and serve from that overflow.